Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a light leak effect like this image on the right here. And this harks back to the days of film when if you had a particularly cheap camera, then light might seep in through the gaps in the camera body and fog the edges of the film, which created this kind of orangey effect that you'd often see around the edges of the frame here. So I'm going to show you how to recreate that in Photoshop, and we're also going to add a bit of texture and make use of a template available within Photoshop to create our retro effect. So let's get started. So I'm in Photoshop CC here, and if I go to File, New, or we can hit Command or Control and N, that's Command N on a Mac, Control N on a PC, then the new document dialog will pop up. And this is a place where we can either create a simple document with specifying a resolution or an image size, or we can also go to these different tabs at the top here to access a range of different useful templates. And you can see we can scroll down and download any of these templates here and drop our images into them. So I found a template here in Art and Illustration called Grunge Paper Textures. So if you go to the new document dialog, then click the Art and Illustration tab here, you can download the Grunge Paper Textures, and then we can double click to open it once downloaded. Now I can go back to my image here, and I can use the Move tool, which you'll find at the top of the Tools panel here, and I can click and drag my image up to the tab of the other image, down in and release to copy my image over. And now if I go to Window Layers to bring up my Layers panel here, let's drag this open a little bit, you'll be able to see there's a layer here called Your Image here. So what we can do is drag our own image just above that layer there. So I'll click and drag my image down so it sits just above the Your Image Here layer. And of course I also need to reposition my image here. I can hit Command or Control and T, that's Command T on a Mac, Control T on a PC to begin transforming my layer here, and I can drag it into position. And if I want, I could also resize by holding Shift and dragging the corner point here, but my image is quite nicely sized for this template, so I'll leave it at about there. And then we can begin delving into the layers here. We can perhaps turn off the frame options to get rid of that white border around our image. Let's zoom in a little bit as well, just to see how we're looking. And then we can just turn these different layer groups here off and on to go through different stages of our effect here. So I quite like the paper texture options, but we could open that group up and choose from different paper textures if we like. Let's have a look through these. I quite like the paper texture 3 here, but it's a bit too strong, so I could go into the opacity here and tone down the layer opacity just to soften that texture effect. So you can see we can delve into the layers and really start to tweak and fine-tune our grungy paper texture to suit our image. We could go to the color overlay options here as well. We could perhaps turn on a different overlay. Let's have a look. We could perhaps let's just go through all of them. I think I quite like this 1 PM overlay here, but again it's a bit strong, so I could just lower the opacity until it looks about right, so somewhere around about there. So you can see we've started to give our image that retro feel, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I think we're ready to add our light leak effect. So I'm going to begin here by just highlighting the top of the layers panel here, so the group there at the top of the layer stack, and then I can click the create adjustment layer icon, which is this circular icon here at the bottom of the layers panel, and I can go and choose the gradient layer. Now I can go into the gradient options here. I can click this little drop down menu, and I want to choose the second gradient option here, which is foreground to transparent. If you can't see this, then you just need to click the little cog here and reset your gradients. Then it should be the second option here, the foreground to transparent gradient style. So we can choose that gradient option, and then we can also click within the preview area here, and this allows us to choose different colors. We can just double click these little boxes here below either end of the gradient here to choose different color stops. So I'm going to double click the box there, and I'm going to choose an orangey color, so perhaps something like this. If I move my boxes out the way here, you can see how this color is looking over my image. So we can just tweak the color here. Just a nice vibrant orange will work, I think, for this. So something like that. And then we'll hit OK. And then I can hit OK in the gradient editor box as well here. Now I can choose the angle here by adjusting this little circular icon here, so I can have it kind of coming in from the corner of the box here. I can also uncheck Align with Layer here, and then I can actually just drag my gradient within the image so that I can fine-tune the positioning. So I'll just have it coming in from the corner over here. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to hit OK to apply. Now, if we go to our blend mode drop down here at the top, we can change this from normal to screen. And you can see how that works. Now we're really starting to get that nice light leak effect coming in from the edge of the frame there. Now, if we like, we can take the light leak effect a bit further and start painting it in by hand instead of using a gradient here. So to do this, we just need to create a new layer. So we can click the new layer icon here at the bottom of the layer stack, and then we can grab our brush tool. We can go to our blend mode drop down again and change the blend mode of this layer from normal to screen. And of course nothing happens, but as we start painting, we'll start to see our light leak effect. So again, we need to choose a color. So let's go for a slightly yellower color this time, somewhere around about there. And then I'll use a small brush tip. I can use the left and right square bracket keys on my keyboard to resize my brush tip. And I can right click to change the hardness. So I'll go for a very low hardness here. I'm also going to lower the opacity of my brush to somewhere around about 50%, just so I can build up my strokes gradually, and I can start painting around the edge of the frame here. And you can see this allows me to create this nice effect around the edges here. We can experiment with different colors as well if we like, so let's perhaps make it slightly more red like that, and then paint elsewhere. You can see you can really start to fine-tune the look of our light leak effect in this way. And if it's too strong, what we can do as well is just lower the layer opacity of that layer. And I think I'll lower the opacity of that lower layer as well, a little bit like that. So you can see, because everything's on separate layers, we've got ultimate control over the look of our retro light leak effect. I think I could even duplicate this layer with Command or Control and J to give me a slightly stronger gradient fill. I'll double click it to open the settings again, and I can drag within the image if I want to change the position or the angle, so I can just start to build up the effect like this and have that coming in from the edge like that. I'm pretty happy with that. And I think perhaps we could finish off with a tonal tweak on top of everything. So I'll highlight the top layer there, I'll click the Create Adjustment layer icon here, and I'm going to choose Curves for this. And then I can drag down on the curve line here just to darken down my image slightly, just to give it a bit more depth in the shadows. I could perhaps just pull the highlights back up like this. I could also go and tweak the colors as well. So I'm going to go into the blue channel here and perhaps drag up on the bottom point on the line here to add a touch of blue into the shadows there. Could tweak the highlights with a touch of yellow as well. And I'm pretty happy with that. If I toggle that layer off and on, you can see the difference that makes to my image. And I think perhaps I'll finish off just by tweaking my layers here. I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer a little bit more, just to make my light leak effect a bit more subtle along that edge there. And I'm really happy with that. So there we go. That's how to create fantastic retro light leak effects in Photoshop.